My name is Haslinda binti Hasri. My metric number is 267866. I will present for the case 5 with each test for the CFO should Pfizer acquire Eledon. Okay, for executive summary, the protagonist character in this case is Fran de Emilio, which is Chief Financial Officer, CFO. On November 2015, Fran de Emilio, Chief Financial Officer, CFO of Pfizer Incorporation, needed to prepare a recommendation about whether to proceed with or stop merger talk between Pfizer and Eledon, a pharmaceutical company with headquarters in New Jersey but tax resident in Ireland. Informal talks had been going on for almost a month, but both sides were rapidly approaching the pre-arranged deadline. The two teams had less than a week to either formally agree to proceed with a merger or walk away. Formalizing the agreement meant activating a $400 million breakup clause that would make it costlier to throw the deal off at a later date. For the problem statement, problem 1, which is revenue decline for the past few years. Pfizer needed a big move. Its revenue had declined over the last 3 years. The stock price had been relatively flat and investors were drawing restless. The Emilio needed a deal that would improve the company's financial performance and competitive position among other global pharmaceutical giants. There were not many targets large enough to provide the result that Pfizer needed. After the previous year failed merger with AstraZeneca, there was a feeling that the time was now. Both sides were close to an agreement which is $152 billion, primarily stock-for-stock merger. The merger teams for Pfizer and Eledon had tentatively agreed to a $152 billion all-stock deal. Pfizer would pay the equivalent of 363.63 per share of Eledon, representing a 30% premium over Eledon's pre-announcement share price. Eledon shareholders would receive roughly 11 shares of the combined company for each of their current Eledon shares, corresponding to approximately 44% of the shares of the combined company. While the newly merged company would retain its administrative headquarters in New York, for tax purposes it would be a resident of Ireland. The purpose of deal did not call for a new layoff at either company, with Eledon CEO expected to accept a chief operating officer role at the combined company. Close often acted as an understudy to the CEO. Although Pfizer CEO Ian Reid had not announced any immediate retirement plans, he was over 60 years old. Offering Eledon CEO sounded the two roles seemed to meet the transition need as Pfizer looked for leadership in the medium and long term. Next is problem 2, laws and regulation that must be followed by multinational companies. US tax rates were among the highest in the world. Consequently, one strategy for companies residing in the United States was to change their tax residence to a country with a lower tax rate. While there were many laws and regulations governing tax residency that made changing tax residency challenging, firms could do so under certain circumstances. One way a company could move its tax residency was through a tax inversion, which was accomplished by merging with a company that was already a tax residency, was through a tax rate country, and then using the lower tax country as the tax resident for the combined entity. When this occurred, the newly merged entity was no longer required to pay US tax rate on profits earned outside the United States. Consequently, tax inversion had the potential to reduce tax both on future profit that would be earned after the merger and on the cash stockpile that had already been earned but they were being held offshore to avoid treasury repatriation taxes. From the Exhibit 1, Pfizer Incorporation financial statement, show that the total revenue is declining from 2013 to 2014, which is from 51,584, then it's decreasing to 49,605. For causes of problem, Allianz Irish provided an opportunity to lower Pfizer worldwide tax rate. The US Treasury Department recently announced a number of regulatory changes targeting merger to relocated company tax to tax inversion. Although the legal team disputed that the resident to low tax country should be labeled a tax inversion, few disputed that many of the merger benefits stem from tax saving generated by moving the tax resident of Pfizer operation to Ireland. The US Treasury regulatory changes appear to be directly targeting other tax-motivated mergers that were under review, but Pfizer legal team was confident that the announced changes would not affect the proposed merger with Allianz. They were less certain about if and when the US Treasury might make changes again. Next sources of problems, which is Pfizer proposed merger with Allianz, was not expected to raise monopoly concerns. The deal faced uncertainty with the US Treasury, which was becoming increasingly concerned about tax-motivated merger. Tax inversions such as these were both increasing in frequency and increasingly drawing political ire. In the United States, President Barack Obama and presidential candidates including Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump frequently commented on mergers. Those comments led to regulatory actions such as the US Treasury new rule titled Additional Treasury Action to range in corporate tax inversion. This measure appeared to directly target proposed tax inversion by reducing the ability of firms to move their tax domicile into countries where they had little economic activities, particularly when merging with much smaller firms. After reviewing the changes, both legal teams were confident that the new rule would not interfere with the proposed deal because Allianz shareholders would own more than 40% of the combined companies. Saunders put it well when he said, "We built this deal around the law, the regulation, or the notice that were put out by the US Treasury, and it was a highly legal construct." He added, "We follow the rules that Congress had set for the companies looking to move to foreign domicile." Advisor in Lobbies Network reported general consensus among US congressional representatives that tax inversion require action, but the advisor expressed considerable disagreement on how to deal with inversion. Republicans who control the House of Representatives but not the Senate preferred a comprehensive solution that would not target specific deal. However, any proposed solution would require congressional coalition building, compromise, and most of all time. The U.S. Treasury Organization with central U.S. Treasury changes to come more quickly because regulatory agency operated more like traditional organization with centralized decision making. The Emilio legal team explained that legal changes such as the announced regulatory changes typically apply onto definalized after the announcement date. Therefore, if Pfizer to accelerate the merger work from 9 months to 6, Pfizer might be able to finalize the merger before either the politician or the regulators could finalize new policy. Alternative and decision: either continue merging with a company that was already a resident of a low tax rate country or discontinue merging with a company that was already a resident of low tax rate country. I recommend that they should continue merging with a company that was already a resident of a low tax rate country. This is because the gains from an acquisition may result from one or more of the following 5 categories, which is revenue enhancement, cost reductions, lower taxes, changing capital requirements, and a lower cost of capitals.